And part of the problem is that every time I make a new thing, I want to do something entirely different from the last project. Relearning what it's like to draft a story for the first time, or to draft a big story for the first time. So we're getting there, guys. We're making our way slowly. Hello everyone, and welcome to another writing vlog. So in this particular video, I would like to make some really decent headway on the novel I'm currently working on, which is going by the alias of Project Spiegeltent. If you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Christy. I'm working on this novel, which is kind of a gothic, arty fantasy story, which is set in the real world in Adelaide. This young woman works at this big creepy festival, and a bunch of stuff happens, and it's going to be magical and vibrant and all of these things. And I am currently working on draft 1, and it has been an incredibly slow process, a very teeth-pulling process. So I am doing my best, but it's been slow going. So I'm on chapter 4. I need to work out where I want the story to go. I need to work out how I put the speculative elements of the story, how I sort of merge that with the rest of the plot. I can't really work out exactly what I want to do. So I'm gonna have to do some brainstorming. I'm gonna have to come up with a plan. I've been trying to brainstorm the middle of this book, but it's just been like pulling teeth. And so I'm hoping that through the filming of this vlog, it's gonna really push me to get some decent headway on this book this week, because I have, for the last couple of weeks, been really bogged down with work stuff. Today I've been doing a lot of filming, so I just filmed one Patreon video. I'm about to film a second Patreon video, and then we can hop over to my desk and at least do some planning. If I don't get any prose work done today or drafting work done today, that's fine. I just need to come up with a plan because I'm stressed. I don't know where to go next in the story, and it's stressing me. As I said, I found the process of writing this novel a little bit challenging so far. It's been very stop-start. It's taken me a really long time to get started properly on draft 1. You know, I've started the novel, I've stopped, I've rewritten, I've started again, all of these things you guys have seen. And part of the problem is that every time I make a new thing, I want to do something entirely different from the last project. My last novel, which is currently on submission with publishers, was written in the third person in a very different voice and with a very different vibe. It was multiple point of view. It had a very complex plot with magical politics, a magical city, and lots of stuff going on. This book, in some ways, is much more simple, which I thought would make it a lot more easy. But I was hilariously wrong on this. Finding the brain space to write has been quite a lot harder than normal. And so essentially my strategy for this was just to break the chapter down into bite-sized pieces. I wrote down dot points of what I thought was going to happen in the story. And, you know, it didn't feel like the muses were singing to me. It felt really hard. But I think this is where it's so important to build resilience as a creative person. You know, you're not going to turn up every single day as your very best creative self. In fact, you're not even necessarily going to turn up every day if you're me, as evidenced by the next clip. You just need to find a way to turn up. Essentially, how this week has been going is that on Monday, I managed to write down all those dot points, I rearranged some stuff, and I managed to make a pretty solid plan of what I want to do for this chapter, which is chapter 4. Tuesday went past, Wednesday went past, really busy work days. I didn't really end up with heaps of time for writing. I actually managed to have lunch with my beautiful friend Marina, and we went to the library. We sat down and we wrote for a decent, a little bit of time. So Marina had an appointment, so they had to skedaddle off and go to that appointment. But I stayed back at the library for a little bit and managed to write a bit more. So today I have written 1,422 words. Decent effort. I would like to get a few more words written this afternoon, so right now it's 6 p.m. So before I clock off for the day, I'd like to do some more. But yeah, I'm just having the joyful experience of relearning what it's like to draft a story for the first time, to draft a big story for the first time. The last time I wrote a novel, the first draft of a novel, was 2020. Actually, I wrote this down. I can actually tell you the timeline of events for Project Teacup. So 2021, I wrote about 50,000, 70,000-ish. I don't actually know how many words I wrote of throwaway documents. And then 2022, April and May 2022 was the first draft of Project Teacup. From there, I went and I did all of the many drafts. I think we ended up with 7.75 drafts of that story. I don't know, it's hard to quantify. The first draft for me, I kind of just need to get it down. I need to get down the bare bones. I need to just not care about whether I don't have all the elements. I'm kind of just laying down the rough sketch. I remember reading, or maybe I was watching an interview of Stephen King and him saying like he'll write a first draft in about 6 weeks and then he'll go back and edit it and he'll always make the story about 20% shorter. I kind of feel like I need to do the opposite, where I need to be really, really careful not to overwrite too much in the first draft because I know I'm going to want to add stuff. Like obviously those prose are going to compress a bit, but also I'm going to want to add in new elements, different parts of the characters, different like narrative threads through the story. And I just want to make sure the key threads are really simple and strong here before I add in any like extra stuff to weave through. At least for me anyway. Easier to do that kind of first layer and then see what you have and then work out what it needs. Like the kind of idea of like you can put more in but you can't take it out, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm obviously still discovering what my process is for this because this is the third time I've started, and this is my third novel that I've worked on. Fourth book, but third novel. It is like 11 p.m.-ish on Thursday night. I've just finished writing. I took some time off with Tyler. We had dinner. We watched Always Sunny in Philadelphia again. I think we've watched every episode of that TV show about 4 times at this point. Anyway, the book, Spiegeltent. I think I wrote just over 3,000 words today, which in the end is really, really good. So a lot of those words are quite slapdash. They're very messy, and I'm looking at this draft in a very sort of rough draft lens where I've got little moments where I'm putting in fix this later, do this later, work this out, as I said earlier, which is giving me the freedom to sort of, if something's going to bog me down, I can leapfrog it and keep going. And I think this is just the process that I at least need right now of, I need the scaffolding to be down. Even if it's messy, even if it needs to be fixed later, it will need to be fixed later, but I need that rough sketch. I need to just see what I have in front of me. I'm such a mix of being a plotter and a discovery writer. Maybe I do actually skew a little bit closer towards discovery writer. Like I kind of find that like I know so loosely what the story is going to be, but it's just the scenes I don't know and the specifics I don't know. And I finished the first 4 chapters, and the way that it's sort of working out with how many, because I'm writing about 3,000 words per chapter, but I'm intending on them being about 5,000-ish. That doesn't need to be super duper specific. It's just kind of a rough idea of the size. So if I keep going the way I'm going, the book is going to end up being around 60,000 words, which is kind of perfect. So if the book caps out at 60,000 words, I mean, that is literally less than half the size of Project Teacup. Project Teacup is like 121 or 122,000. I don't know what happened. I did my best. I said I wanted it to be 100k. It ended up being 120. But if Spiegeltent ends up being about 60,000 words, I'll be super duper pleased because that gives me so much room to play with, compressing the prose, making everything better, and then adding in extra elements, which I'm excited about. Happy Friday afternoon. It has been just a mammoth week. Work-wise, I feel like now that we're in the middle of February, I feel like I'm finally catching up on a lot of the miscellaneous, ridiculous stuff that I sort of pushed to the wayside at the end of last year. Like we've made some really amazing headway with getting merch organized, did a bunch of stuff today. I had meetings today. It's been a whole thing. We now, thank goodness, finally have some time for writing though. Right now it is 4:30 p.m. and I have a thing I have to leave for because it's one of my friend's birthdays in a couple days. So we're celebrating her birthday by going to Gluttony, which is, if you're not familiar, in Adelaide, we're really, really lucky to be home to this massive like festival called Adelaide Fringe, and it runs for like 4 weeks. It's like the world's second biggest festival. We're super duper duper lucky to have this amazing, vibrant art scene here in Adelaide, which is part of why I'm writing this novel, because I used to work in the arts. It's like one of my jobs that I did in marketing. We're going to be going out because tonight is technically opening night for Gluttony, which is one of the venues. But anyway, it is beautiful Pippa's birthday in 2 days, and so we're going to be celebrating her birthday tonight. So I wanted to get ready before I start writing, because if like I will be terrible at sort of fathoming how long it takes for me to actually put on makeup and fix my hair. I did that beforehand so I can start writing and then just zip off. This is my outfit. We're going with a burgundy theme, so my nails are burgundy. My bag is burgundy as well, this bag, and then my socks are also burgundy. I'll show you. It's a very strange angle for my camera, but I'm also wearing burgundy socks, which completes the outfit. I'm hoping that maybe I can get in like an hour of writing really quickly. So just as a small caveat, my desk is messy. My desk is always a bit messy. So all of the mess on my desk, aside from these guys, I've just kind of pushed out of view so you can't really see it. But basically, I'm very stressed about Project Teacup because we're on submission for that novel, and the process of being on submission is somehow worse than querying. Again, I think that that's part of why I'm finding spiegeltent really difficult, because my brain doesn't like unclosed tabs. I'm trying to find a way to work through that chaos, even though it's difficult. It's fine if spiegeltent takes a little bit longer because creatively I'm so stressed about Project Teacup. It's bringing up all these emotions. But yeah, my desk is messy. It's been messy for a while. It's going to keep being messy. That's fine. Let's pull up spiegeltent. Where are we? That's a lip gloss that shouldn't be there. So this is spiegeltent currently. It looks pretty good when you lay it out and you have all of these words. To chapter 5. Currently this is the planning I've got for chapter 5, so maybe I need to flesh that out a little bit more. So even though I made a small start on chapter 5 on Friday night, I kept finding myself stuck and not entirely sure of where to go in the story. I knew where I wanted the character to be by the end of the chapter, but I just didn't know how to get her there. Every avenue I tried felt a bit too easy, a bit too contrived, it didn't suit her character, and I just felt immovably stuck. So I ended up sitting down on Saturday, knowing that it was the weekend and I had all day to work on the story if I wanted, and doing a bunch of planning and replotting. I first wrote out a bunch of notes in my notebook, and then I moved over to Millernote, which is the visual planning tool that I use, and essentially I just wrote down a whole bunch of planning stuff for the middle chapters of the story, plotted out and brainstormed where certain things could go, which characters would do which things, which parts of the mystery would need to be foreshadowed where, like what would need to be revealed, all of that kind of thing. For me, so much of writing a novel is following my instincts and unearthing whatever I think the story is eventually meant to be. I made a video on Patreon recently about my novel writing process and my journey so far, and I have been writing novels since I was a teenager, guys. But so much of this journey for me has just been developing my instincts for storytelling, for character, working out how to write what feels right and feels authentic, and also learning how to discern what feels right and feels authentic in a story. So when I started novel writing, I didn't know anything about structure, Save the Cat, 7-act structure, hero's journey. I knew none of that stuff. I just sat down, opened a blank page and started typing and finding my way and doing this process through trial and error. And even now I find that I don't really follow strict rules when it comes to structuring my stories. And to be honest, this very airy-fairy way of making art might be a little bit more haphazard than necessary, but it is the only way that I personally know how to make novels, that I personally know how to make things. And so for creative people, so that we don't make ourselves go mad, the most important thing we can do is work out the best process that works for us and be compassionate with ourselves and make space for that, because I would love to just sit down and smash out this novel in a month or 2 months, but it seems like that's not the way that this is going, and I'm doing my best, and it is what it is. It is 7 p.m. on Saturday the 22nd of February, and I think I worked for something like somewhere between 5 and 8 hours. It's ridiculous that I actually know the answer to that, but I worked for a bit, I took breaks, I went for a walk. It's been mostly a day spent on writing. The draft 1 document is sitting at about 17,337 words. But the thing that's really significant here is that I didn't actually do really anything on chapter 5. Yep, I'm currently on chapter 5. I spent all of those many hours planning, and so with this story, because it's set in the real world, I'm kind of trying to work out exactly how much of this world I make speculative. I'm trying to work out how I integrate those elements together, and basically I had this really bold idea for the general structure of how I want the kind of mystery in this story to unfold. I just did hours and hours and hours of planning, research. I now have a structure for the middle of the story. I think I've done the most difficult of all of the planning work I'm going to need to do for this story. I have chapter 5 all planned. I have chapter 6 planned. Yeah, I feel really good. Today was a really difficult writing day, but because it's a Saturday, I had completely unbroken writing time today. I managed to sit down and actually do heaps on the story. We made really good progress today, so that's very good.
Is dedicating you entirely to Granny Wendy. Red.
Peter, you're busy.
I think I worked really solidly yesterday because I did so much planning work on the weekend. I managed to write about maybe 3,700 to 4,000 words. We finished chapter 5. We finished chapter 5. I'm on to chapter 6 today, which is kind of the extent of my planning. And so for chapters 7 and 8, I'm gonna have to go sit down and do another bunch of planning, but I'm hoping I can get done at least half of chapter 6 today. So I'm about to head off to the library again. I'm just gonna live there this week. I feel a little bit allergic to working on the book in my own house. I think it's just possible that I'll get distracted by YouTube work, my emails, so many other things. So we're gonna head out to the library, we're gonna do some more writing. Hopefully I can write at least 2,500 words in one sitting. Today I wrote 1,984 words. That's pretty good. We did roughly half of that chapter. So basically that was just me in the library brute forcing my way through. I'm just sprinting. I'm sprinting a marathon. Not a wise thing to do. I want to get through draft 1 as quickly as possible so I can see what I have and so I can do the much funner draft for me, which is draft 2. Draft 2 is about making everything polished and putting things in the correct places and fleshing out the characters, and basically I think my version of a draft 1 is kind of just a more developed outline. Like it's kind of a mix of discovery writing and plotting. It's just that I don't know what it is until I have words on a page, because to me the prose can always change, and my stories do tend to change quite a lot between draft 1 and draft 2, but I need the exercise of having, I don't know, done the brainstorming work, done the early scaffolding of draft 1 in order to do draft 2. And I find draft 2 a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. I can do it a little bit more slowly.
I'll be fine. Wait, does it do anything? Yes! I just picked up everyone's a footy. I don't know which one.
Yeah, no idea. No.
I don't know who's on my team.
Hello everyone, happy Sunday. To be honest with you, I had actually wanted to get draft 1 of Project Spiegeltent up to about 30,000 words by today. Now that definitely hasn't come to fruition because the book is sitting at 21,000-ish words currently, and I'm hoping that I can have a decent number of words written today. But basically what happened over the last 2 days is that I ended up working on something else, a different writing thing. I ended up writing a kind of travel memoir piece, and so over the last 2 days wrote 3,000 words, polished that, edited that, did that project really momentarily, and so that kind of set me back a little bit on Project Spiegeltent. I think I might have gotten to that goal today if I hadn't have gotten sidetracked with a different writing thing, but that is all good. The book is currently sitting at 21,000 words. Hopefully we can get some decent words written today, and the really positive thing is that last week I did all of that planning. I think I know where the middle of the story is going to go. I think I'm slowly getting through the draft draft one doldrums, this kind of, it's not that I find draft one boring, it's just that I find it really, really difficult, and I really struggle with knowing what way to take the story and not wanting to take the story in the wrong direction. And obviously it's important to just keep slowly plodding along and getting words on a page, and if you realize you're going in the wrong direction, it's fine, you can delete those words, go a different direction, all of that is fine. I'm just trying to find my way, and I generally, with these kinds of stories, it just takes me so much longer because it's so much more complex. Like to speak to the little memoir piece I did over the last 2 days, that was such an easy piece of writing where I knew exactly what I wanted to write, and basically I didn't have to plot it. I just wrote the entire essay from start to finish. It was exactly 3,000 words. I think I was like 5 words over. It's going to require really, really minimal editing. Like, it's the type of thing, this other writing piece is just the type of work where it just sort of comes to you and it's fully formed and it's really easy and the words come out really, really quickly, and you're just typing and trying to catch the thing before it flies away. And that's very much the feeling of like chasing the muses, right? Like having this sort of like inspiration that comes to you and you have to chase after it. And I get that every now and then. Like, I got it with my short story, The Hotel for Hungry Ghosts. I've gotten it with stories before, and honestly it is the funnest way to write because you feel like you're just existing in the story and everything is working and everything is easy. But novel writing doesn't feel that way to me, and novel writing is my favorite medium, and it just takes a lot more time. I'm just pleased that we've gotten the story up to 20, what is it, 20,000, 21,000 words currently. Let's see where we can get to today. Is it more than 21,000? Oh, it's basically like 22,000. It's 21,982 words currently. And chapter 6, let's see what we can do today. I'm gonna set up over here so it feels a little bit different from my desk because I spend every day sitting at my desk. Let's get some tea and we can get writing for today. It is now Sunday afternoon and I ended up at my desk anyway because even though my brain craves novelty, this is a much more ergonomic place to work than sitting cross-legged at the coffee table in my living room. So how did we do today? In total, I wrote 2,734 words today, which is pretty good. I'm sitting at a kind of crossroads where some of the planning that I did last Saturday, I don't know if it has the level of complexity that I want, the kind of cause and effect for how this character finds out the mystery elements. Like, I've kind of got this person who kind of wants to keep the status quo. Like, she's not a Bilbo Baggins in any way, but she wants this beautiful shiny world to remain beautiful and shiny, but she's not being pulled along into the story because she's very assertive. But I'm just trying to play around with, she doesn't want to know any of this stuff, and yet she's actively finding out this stuff, and yet she's actively becoming more and more obsessed with the like clandestine underworld of like what is going on in this place. And so I'm just trying to manage like, how complex do I make that mystery given that this story is only 70,000 words? Everything I do with writing is so instinctual. That's why I need to get in and write the whole thing down and then reread it and be like, okay, does this work? Do I like this? Or oftentimes I'll rewrite the next draft based entirely off of my memory. I don't know if I'm going to do that this time. Like, that's definitely what I did with Project Teacup. I wrote the very first draft of the story in 2 months, and then I wrote the second draft completely from memory, under the logic that anything that was important from the first draft I would remember for the second draft, so I didn't need to reread it. I don't think I'm going to do that with Spiegeltent, but I'll see how I go. So chapter 6 is all done. We are on to chapter 7 out of 13, so we're getting there, guys. guys. We're making our way slowly. Draft 1 of Project Spiegeltent is currently sitting on 24,716 words. It's actually really unsatisfying that I didn't just write the extra 300 odd words and get that up to 25,000. But anyway, that means that roughly in the last 2 weeks, I wrote around 15,000 words-ish. Like I think I also wrote around 3 to 4 chapters, which is not quite as many words as I wanted, but it's still really, really good. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for being here. And also before I go, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to everyone over on Patreon for supporting my videos. I wouldn't be able to make these videos without the wonderful people over on Patreon. Over there, we have a whole bunch of bonus content, bonus videos, our book club. This month we're reading Jane Eyre. I also post writing snippets, updates, so many things over on Patreon. So if you want to support my channel, please feel free to check that out. There is a link in the description down below. Take care everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.